Welcome to Inside the UPSL on TVE Max and on TVEmax.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. That is at UPSL Soccer. I am your host, Alex Naveja. Alongside me today is Anthony Wells and Dennis Pope, as we are here every Thursday to bring you guys the latest news on the fastest growing pro development soccer league, the UPSL. I would like to welcome you to Off the Top, where we bring you the top 3 topics in lower division soccer. First off, we have a lot of news brewing up in the U.S. Open Cup in the 4th round quarterfinal. The quarter qualifying, the blackout going on currently. Seriously, gentlemen, what's going on here?
Well, so it started last weekend with the games for the 4th round of qualifying for the U.S. Open Cup not being available to being viewed anywhere. ESPN Plus and United States Soccer Federation announced an agreement on Friday that they would move forward as the official broadcast partner of the U.S. Open Cup, and they asked all teams participating, all teams hosting games to not stream their games, to not make them available at all, or there would be penalties. And so there was no basically way to view these games. There was Twitter updates and things like that, but you couldn't find these games online anywhere. And a lot of these teams had already made promises to sponsors and partners and things to put their name and logo up during these matches, and all that sort of revenue and that partnership could potentially is lost. So it's financially detrimental to these clubs what has happened here, and it's definitely unfortunate. It's a strange decision that was made. There's no real rhyme or reason for why they did it in the announcement. It just said what they were doing and what they were doing going forward. There was no reason why they were doing the decision to black out these teams. The email just came privately, and so I let a lot of people scratching their heads what to do, what can we do, and unfortunately a lot of those games are just lost. Nobody who wasn't there will ever see them. There's fantastic games. There was some tremendous comebacks. Unfortunately for the UPSL, some of the results weren't so great, but there were great games being played, and all of them were missed. So yeah, it's not a great situation, and who knows what's going to happen going forward in qualifying games for the 2020 and 2021 and so on and so forth. Those games take place in the fall, and in the agreement there's no stipulation as to what's going to happen. Is ESPN Plus going to also broadcast those games? Are those games available to those teams to broadcast? There's no answers yet, so it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, it is frustrating, just like you said, not only for the teams and for the fans and for the people looking forward to watching these games, but as you said, it's frustrating because the games themselves, it's amateur games, but they're really high quality games. It's soccer that's being well played and that needs to be put out there. So it really is frustrating, but if there's a silver lining in all this, it's the fact that these kind of lower division games are already kind of getting the attention from the bigger networks, which means that the UPSL is kind of heading in the right direction, and for a bigger network to be like, hey, you cannot stream this, means that these games are actually getting those attentions. Obviously, is that a good thing for the people that are looking forward to them, for the teams, for the league? Of course not. But it shows that you've got good quality soccer there, and someone is taking a bite at the broadcasting rights, and unfortunately, it didn't come out the ideal way. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it just in the most crucial weekend of the year for these amateur teams.
Yeah.
They've built up their entire programs to this point,
right,
and to not make that available to their fans is a tragic thing in my view.
Of course, no doubt.
As I always say, if you can't watch it online, try to travel, try to watch it there in person. As we were talking about that last week as well. Let's travel out to Irvine and the Santa Ana Winds game to watch that one. But speaking of results, who's in and who's out in the U.S. Open Cup?
So prior to the weekend, 2 UPSL teams had already qualified. Bavarian UPSL majors from Wisconsin, they had qualified through the tournament through winning the U.S. Amateur Cup. So that automatically qualified them for the tournament. And so they didn't have to go through the qualification process that everybody else had to go through. They already had a slot. They were the first team pretty much entered into the U.S. Open Cup. And then 2 other teams from the UPSL have qualified. Florida Soccer Soldiers, who went through qualifying, won their first 3 games, and then came to their 4th round game against America Soccer Club out of Orlando, but they forfeited, and so Florida Soccer Soldiers just jumped into the tournament basically through forfeit. Cal FC, they had to work their way through back to get to the tournament, and now they're in thanks to a 4-1 victory over Santa Ana Winds over the weekend. They were the only UPSL team to win a game in the fourth round, unfortunately. But there is 3 UPSL teams in the tournament now, and so that's a great thing. The numbers have fluctuated from year to year. There's been as many as 6 or 7 UPSL teams in the tournament, but the numbers of open slots for teams is declining too. So it just figures that there's going to be fewer slots available, fewer teams in the UPSL joining the league.
Well, talk about the Florida Soccer Soldiers. I mean, yeah, their fourth qualifying round was a forfeit, but you're talking about a UPSL team that makes it through 4 rounds to get to the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, that's something certainly to be praised, and I think one of the men that are responsible for that is Valentin Sabella. He's on that team. He's a really good player. He got 4 goals in that qualifying round, and currently in their UPSL division down in Florida, they're 2-0. They've scored 8 goals. They haven't conceded a goal. One of those victories was a 7-0 win. So this is a team that really has depth. I mean, they also have a reserve squad there. So in case they need to, fill in some key positions, they can do that. And they're thinking long term. Obviously, they have an uphill battle right now. They got Miami FC against them. They're the underdog here. But of course, as supporters of the UPSL, I always tell people, watch globally, support locally, because there's always there's going to be a UPSL team near you, whether you like it or not, most likely. So we'll see what happens.
I like that phrase that you said earlier, because I mean it's really true. Like this league is expanding and growing, so there's always a team around you. But the first round proper draw was announced today. What can the matchups tell you guys, or what does it tell you?
The matches are based regionally, and so they are matched up as closely as possible to create some regional rivalries, I think, in this first round of the tournament. And it makes travel a little bit easier for the clubs. I think the longest travel anybody really has to do is there's a Portland team that's got to come down to play Cal FC.
That's true.
And so that's kind of a distance.
In Calabasas.
Yeah, in Calabasas. And so that's like a 2-day drive, give or take, But for the most part, I mean, everybody's sort of matched up super hyper locally. The matchup I'm looking forward to the most is the Milwaukee matchup. You got 90-year-old Milwaukee Bavarian placing not even 1-year-old forward Madison. And I think that matchup, here it is on the graphic. It looks, I think that's the game of the first round. Everybody's going to look to Bavarian. They were the one that qualified first for the tournament to do big things. And against this team that has sort of this momentum behind it, everybody likes the logo. The team is backed by Peter Wilt, who's this guru of amateur soccer, pro development soccer, and so it's got a lot of sort of hometown brew. I think they want to call this the beer cheese derby. Yeah, this is going to be a good matchup. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I've got 2 matchups that I'm mainly looking forward to. The first one is the one that we were just talking about right now, Soccer Soldiers against Miami FC. Just for the name that Miami FC brings. I mean, if you guys remember Adriano, he played in, I believe, 2 World Cups for Brazil. He played for Miami. It was only 1 game, but they really have the name to bring a player like that, and they're certainly I like to see a powerhouse in Florida. So to see a UPSL team go against them, and I also I'm looking forward to the Clash of the Titans here in California. It's Orange County FC against FC Golden State Force, which are 2 teams that are great players, great quality of soccer. 2 teams that are very much consolidated here in Southern California, where there's a lot of talent. They're going to go head to head in Irvine, so that's something that we can expect a really good game out of.
And 2 former and sort of current UPSL fall season teams, so they run their programs in the UPSL concurrently as well. So there's some UPSL flavor there as well.
There we go. Love that UPSL flavor.
So some big matchups coming up in California here against NorCal and SoCal. But we're going to take our first break. But when we come back, we're going to have Josh Hakala joining us on the show. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. That is Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That is at UPSL Soccer. Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TVE Max. And now we'd like to welcome in Josh Hakala, the founder and editor of thecup.us, to the show. Josh, thanks for being on the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Are those your paintings that are against the wall? Or who painted those?
Those are my kids. This is the reason why I don't have as much time to devote to this whole thing. Is I have three children that keep me busy. So it would be so much better if I was just single and in college again. But that's the life.
It looked like future Picasso's coming our way, but just want to ask you a series of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure thing.
So you've been open about your stance regardless to the new USSF ESPN Plus deal. What do you think of the announcement, and why do you think this is a good thing?
I think it's a great opportunity for all the clubs, really, especially the lower division clubs and the amateur clubs, to be able to just be out there and to be exposed to such a big audience, or potentially big audience anyway. Having the tournament out there for people to actually see is great. I think, there's 2 million plus subscribers to ESPN Plus, and people who probably already tuned into Serie A or MLS or whatever reason they subscribe to ESPN Plus already, and now they have the Open Cup to attach to that as well. So I think it's great for the tournament, and it's great for the smaller clubs to get their name out there.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think of the Discord created by the blackout?
By the blackout? Oh, you mean with qualifying?
Yes.
Yeah, my only guess to that, and the federation hasn't gotten back to me yet on this issue, but my guess was that the reason why they didn't want to do that was they didn't want to have this big announcement of we're going to be on ESPN Plus, but not the next day, because they announced it on Friday, and then the games were on Saturday and Sunday. I'm guessing they wanted to have it be consistent, and not have this excitement over ESPN Plus, and then have people try to tune into ESPN Plus for these games. And I think only 2 of the games, or maybe even 3 of the games, were planning on being streamed anyway. But it was disappointing not to see the games, because there were some fantastic games. But that's my only guess, is that they just wanted to kick things off with the first round of the tournament proper.
Mm-hmm. And what do you see in the Open Cup at the end of this new 4-year agreement?
Well, hopefully a lot more people will see these games, and it'll get a lot more attention. I think even just having the highlights available, and I know people can cut up highlights of video of just about anything, but having quality, consistent streaming of all these games is going to have the ability to maybe highlights on ESPN if something is exciting enough, or maybe since it's an ESPN, it's being broadcast on ESPN, maybe you will see a few more Open Cup highlights on SportsCenter, or whatever programming they have on ESPN Plus. So I think that's a big plus. But overall, I think it's a big step forward. Hopefully, by the time it's up, maybe we'll see it expanded even further. Maybe get some more games on the channel itself. Maybe some ESPN2 situations. So could be a good step forward.
It was funny because last week Dennis and I were actually discussing he wanted to see some highlights in ESPN, and hopefully that can be something that could be developed into ESPN sometime in the future with all the UPSL highlights. But what were some of your biggest surprises from the qualifying rounds?
Well, I mean, it's tough to pick because there were 3, I would say narrowed down to 3 really good games. I mean, the Academica game where they scored 3 goals in stoppage time. They scored 2 goals in second half stoppage time, and then they scored another goal to equalize in the second half of extra time stoppage time. 2 forced penalty kicks and eventually win. And I think the other game that was, FC Denver coming back down 3-0 going into halftime, and then they scored right before halftime, and then scored 3 unanswered goals in the second half and extra time. That was fantastic. I think the Virginia United game was good too. They came back and tied it up and forced extra time and went to penalty kicks. So we had 3 games going to extra time, and the rest of the games were pretty well in hand. The Rayados from North Texas kind of took care of business. Westchester United, they're both back in the tournament, and Cal FC is back in the tournament as well. That's pretty exciting.
I would say that was a pretty exciting 3-0 comeback for Denver. That was quite the comeback. Not usually see that in an everyday basis. But what was your reaction to some of the matchups announced today?
Well, I think there are some really juicy ones that I think the one that I'm looking forward to. I want to see the Florida Soccer Soldiers. They're a new team, and they had a great first year, and they're continuing that into the qualifying tournament, and obviously they didn't need to play their 4th round game because of one of the other team had some financial troubles and had to withdraw. But still, they have a resume coming in, and they're going to get a big test. They're going to play against Miami FC, the champion from the MPSL. I think that's a huge test. Having a Florida battle there, that'll be a lot of fun. I think that up where I am in Michigan, you got the AFC Ann Arbor from the NPSL, playing the Lansing Ignite from the USL 1, the 3rd Division Pros. So I think that'll be fun. I think really when you get those matchups between, 2 teams that wouldn't normally play each other that are in the same neck of the woods, we've got our first Wisconsin battle in the Open Cup, the first one we've had since 2003. You got Bavarian SC. Been around since 1929. They've been competing in the Open Cup since the 30s, and they're playing against Forward Madison, the USL League One team. So they're a brand new team, and it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we'll get a little bit of an upset out of that.
It's definitely going to be some excitement over in Florida with the Miami matchup and the Florida Soldiers matchup. But my final question to you is, who was your pick amongst the amateur teams to go the furthest, and why?
I was looking at Cal FC, and they have added a lot of, I don't want to call them ringers, but I guess that's kind of what you could call the players with some Major League Soccer experience, some overseas experience, and they really bolstered an already strong team. Having that. Having an already strong team based in Southern California where there's just tons of talent to choose from, Cal FC has a lot going for them already, and the fact that they can add some players that played for the LA Galaxy. Danny Barrera is back, one of the heroes from their 2012 run where they beat the Portland Timbers. He's back with the team, and I think they could be really dangerous in this year's tournament.
Well, we'll see how far Cal FC makes it to the tournament. We just want to say thank you so much for being with us tonight, Josh.
Hey, anytime. Glad to be here.
And that was Josh Hakala with us on the show as we step aside and hear from our sponsors.
Mr. John manages a small football club with just a few followers. Every day he wonders, how can I attract more supporters? Internet is the answer, but a channel is time-consuming, expensive, and hard to maintain. Everything has changed since Mr. John met MyCujo, the football broadcasting solution for small and medium-sized clubs and leagues. Mr. John noticed how everything has started to change quickly when supporters and fans began to arrive. If you want your club to enjoy the same benefits as Mr. John's, sign up with MyCujo.tv. Attract more followers for your club and empower its business now. MyCujo, democratization of football broadcasting. MyCujo.tv.
Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TV Emax. And now it's time to swing our way to the East Coast swing as we bring you the pressing topics across the UPSL East. We'll go ahead and start off with Florida as the American Pyramid blog produced its first women's soccer profile on Unity FC. What are you guys' thoughts on this new profile?
Well, Unity FC is one of the 10 teams that's going to come into the Florida women's division here coming up this spring-summer season. And American Pyramid blog and their writer-editor John Panabaker spoke to Unity FC's Mark Ford about their program and what they got going on. They do have some special things happening. It is a scholarship program, so to speak, so none of the girls on the team have to pay a dime, and they do their best to treat these girls like professionals. and so it's a really cool program that they have going on. They're expanding and doing new things all the time, and so they deserve that kind of attention. They're one of the sort of movers and shakers in the Florida women's scene right now, and so I think they're just trying to get the word out, spread the word, and the American Pyramid Blog does a good job of that.
Now we're going to shift our way over to the Southeast as the Soda City FC moves on to a 4-1-0, winning 5-1 against FC Cardinals. No damage done to their record with that draw, correct?
Earlier this season, they played to a 2-2 draw against Low Country, but Soda City is a quality program. They're a playoff team out of the Southeast Conference last year, and they're just continuing to show why they are successful by beating teams the way they are. FC Cardinals is a very, very solid team. Their owner and director, Andy Salandi, really puts a real good product onto the field, and see this sort of result is, a little bit surprising. This shows Soda City's ability and sort of dominance going forward in that conference, and I think we can look for good things out of Soda City coming up here soon. They're going to probably attempt to qualify for U.S. Open Cup 2020. Again, they were participating in the qualification rounds earlier this year, and they're just building. They're doing great things there in the Columbia, South Carolina, arena and area, and they're one of the coolest logos, by the way. They have a fantastic logo with the soda bubbles and the whole thing. And Columbia, of course, is like the soda capital of the Southeast. But yeah, super impressed by Soda City and this victory. I think this sort of raises eyebrows.
You're starting to make me want a soda pop now, Dennis. We should go grab one right after.
Yeah, pop.
Right after, I say
some pop, that's right.
Not soda.
Pop City FC.
It's pop.
If it was up in the upper Midwest, it'd be pop, yeah, that's for sure.
Now we're going to make our way over to Atlantic Caribbean as the KSA Pro is dominating over the division in recent weeks. What do you think about this as far as them dominating the charts?
Well, they're a brand new team to both the Atlantic Caribbean and the UPSL, and I think KSA stands for Kalanji. I don't know if I'm getting that pronunciation correct, but Kalanji Soccer Academy. And to see them putting up these goals, clearly they're hiding some players. Like who are these players and where are they getting them? I'm pretty impressed by by the score lines they're putting up. They've scored a ton of goals so far, and they continue to do so week in and week out in that newly sort of refurbished Atlantic Caribbean Conference. So yeah, I think you'd look for their name coming up here at the end of the season as one of the potential playoff teams to come out of the Caribbean Conference.
Yeah, and bringing this back to the UPSL in general, it's just really good to see this many teams that are starting projects and are kind of just really putting their heads in and they're thinking long term and they're putting good quality soccer out there on the field, and you have players that are committed to it. And I think that speaks a lot about the league itself. They have the support of the league behind them. They feel like the league is there in case they need anything. They're just that communication going. So it's just really a bunch of new teams that are just doing great, and just KSA Pro, just one of them. Yeah, 12 goals scored in 2 games. I mean, that's something that really is impressive. So hopefully we can see more of these guys just keep up that great work.
I'm curious to see how these guys finish. How many goals are they going to finish up by the end of the year? This is just 2 games, and already with 12 goals, pretty offensive team right there.
Yeah, very offensive. Very offensive.
Going to have to get some defensive teams. You have to shut them down. As now we're going to make our way over to the Northeast as the Juve Pro is getting pretty hyped up over there now with all the promotions that are going on in their social media platforms. Who's your pick to win the new revamped UPSL Premier Northeast Division?
Well, that's a tough one. There's a lot of really good teams. Last spring's champion, of course, was Mass United, and I think the ball is sort of in their half of the field, so to speak. Sort of come out and see if they've made any progress and what owner Jim Antonakis continues to do with that club. And so I think first and foremost you have to mention them. And if Safira continues to be involved, their program is just outstanding overall. Their futsal to outdoor program is one of the best in the country, and so I would definitely look for them as well.
And Boston Siege too is a team that I've heard really good things from, and they're a team that just really gets to always kind of just like bother people.
They do. That is a good characterization of them. But they're going to start actually in the second division, in the Northeast. So they're going to have to work their way up to promotion. But they're fully capable, I think. But they are a real, thorn in people's sides.
Right.
Yeah.
Now our final stop will be over in the Midwest as the Indianapolis Old Boys, and that's spelled BHOYS. They opened the 2019 season with the win over Livonia City FC. How big of a deal is this win for the Old Boys?
Well, to start their season off with a victory over a team that was attempting to qualify for U.S. Open Cup is a big on any level. I think teams that attempt to participate in U.S. Open Cup think something of themselves and their quality. And so, you know, when you schedule a friendly against a team like that, I think you're expecting a little, at least a little bit of quality, right? And so to see Old Boys do this is impressive. I think this is their first game. They've done a lot of hard work in the off season since last spring to get where they are now, and so I think they're happy with their success in this game and what this means for their program going forward.
I love that they put the H there. Certainly makes them stand out. You remember the boys with the H? That's them, you know.
I think it's Gaelic or Irish. I don't know. Which
Maybe.
one, yeah.
Even before the show, I was questioning Dennis. Are you sure there's supposed to be an H on the boys? But he told me yes, that's the name of the team.
It's not a typo. It's correct.
There we go.
Just making sure Dennis, we got it correct, but he did. He got it just right. But that's going to be the end of the song called the East Coast Swing. But when we come back, we're going to go and say what's up to the UPSL West Side when we come back. Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TVE Max. And now we'd like to say what's up to the UPSL West Side as we see what's cracking on the West Side. And we start off with First Central as a newcomer, Kurnow Storm FC topped Irving FC in the UPSL Game of the Week. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Big win, I think, for Kurnow Storm expansion team in the UPSL Central Conference. And they did play in the Game of the Week. And some very good goals. I think they scored a late winner to beat Irving City. Not Irving City anymore, just Irving FC. That's right. And to get out to a strong start, I think means everything to a club like this. You know, when you're a brand new club in a league and you're expected to come out and perform and you're doing it, I think, you know, that gives everybody a boost at the club. But now they face Inocentes FC, and everybody knows about Inocentes FC. Last fall season, a finalist, came within a hair of winning the championship title, and they're, you know, consistently in their first two seasons in the UPSL been the most dominant team in the Central Conference, and so, you know, that's a massive challenge, right, for Kurnow Storm FC, and you know, I think it'll be a big test, you know. Yeah,
talk about Inocentes FC. That I was going to talk about the game they actually lost. Didn't they play Inocentes FC at the end of the month with the 3-2 loss? Right, they did, and that's the game I wanted to chime in on, because you're talking about a team that made it all the way to UPSL Fall National Championship Final, and if you watch that game, you know that Inocentes, you know, had. You know, they had all the capabilities to come away with that title. Yeah, they were with the man down in the second half, and you know, the first half they really struggled there. But this is a team that manages to score 2 goals, put on a strong performance against a UPSL, you know, national title finalists. I mean, these are certainly, you know, these new coming teams to the UPSL that you really want to watch out for as the you know, the season progresses. So we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on those guys.
Now, you guys are talking about the Storm and Inocentes playing against each other. What's going to be the key for the Storm to come up top on this matchup?
Well, I think they're probably going to look to concede possession in that game and look to punch on their counterattack, which is going to be difficult because Inocentes is a great defensive team. They really have a lot to work for against Inocentes, and I think they're going to learn a lot no matter what. And I'm going to guess, you know, that the result probably won't go their way unless something crazy happens, but Inocentes will teach them a lesson or two.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when you play a team that's better than you, sometimes, you know, the result may not be what you want it to be, but it can nonetheless be a teaching lesson. You know, and Inocentes FC, it's a very organized team. I mean, we saw both sides of this team in the UPSL national, you know, fall national championship final. We saw a team that was counterattacking in the first half, but pressing in the second half at times. So I think, you know, Kurnow, they can learn from them, of course, and they'll pose a threat too. You know, it's not.
Now, some big things going on in the Southwest as far as the Southwest FC and FC Denver playing quite the epic matchup. It was FC Denver down 3-0 and then rebounding? How?
Well, nobody saw it, so nobody really knows unless you were there. But it happened, and they scored the winner in extra time, which means heartbreak for UPSL club Southwest FC, who had, really done a really difficult job in qualifying so far. They had to do a lot of travel, a lot of back and forth, and to get this game at home and to go up 3-0 and to just to have that happen has got to be crushing. I don't know, what it's going to take for them to bounce back, how immediately they can bounce back for this. The UPSL season in the Southwest will start pretty quickly, and so they won't have a choice. But when you get to that point, right, you're on the verge of potentially playing a team at a higher level and changing the fortunes of your entire club, right? And you're up 3-0, and you think, we got this,
right?
At the end of the game, you don't got it.
It is heartbreaking, It's the UPSL, everyone. You got to watch it. It's just crazy. And you also talk about Southwest. It's a team that it's a fantastic team, but it's games like this that you really start to see the effect of the schedule. You got to play a lot of games. You got to travel, and then you finally get a game at home. You got the nerves. You're up 3-0, and then you start to feel that fatigue. And once that first goal comes in, hinders your confidence. That second goal comes in, you're like, wait a minute, they can actually pull off, the comeback. That's what happened. Wow,
it's definitely a shocking development there. Now, how quickly do they have to rebound from this loss?
Well, like I said, the season starts here in just a couple of weeks for them.
Right.
How quickly can they regroup? What portion of that roster will be maintained in the UPSL season? A lot of questions still need to be answered for them, but it's going to be a difficult task. They have to regroup quickly. It's going to take some serious practice and preparedness to get ready for the teams they have to play during the regular season, including Sporting AZ. They're no joke. They're going to take it to you, and not feel bad about it. So yeah, they got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just only about regrouping, but regardless of the players that come in, you only have a certain amount of time to develop that chemistry. And you talk about a team like Sporting AZ. This is a team that they've been playing together for years. They know this tournament better than everyone, and they've got the players. And everything. So it's all about exactly as you said: rest, recuperate, train, get the chemistry back up there, and just play some soccer.
So Southwest FC's got to make some big moves, shifting their attention elsewhere, as now we're going to make our way to the Mountain region. As can New Colorado Amateur League be the change needed to fight state soccer chaos?
Well, they're going to try, right? There's this new thing called the Mountain Premier League that's popped up, and it's starting to gain a little bit of attention up there. Colorado for years has been, and they'll admit as much, a very influx situation with the way they handle their adult leagues and their adult teams. The UPSL tried to come in there and create some stability, but that was undermined, for various reasons. And so now they're trying this thing called the Mountain Premier League and trying to do the same clubs in the same situation, just under a different name. So it's sort of, makes people roll their eyes a little bit. But if they can make it happen, there's definite quality in Colorado. I think everybody recognizes that. It's just a matter of managing that, sort of eccentricity that goes along with the teams there in Colorado. Shrug my shoulders. I have no idea what's going to happen there. Will the UPSL start another, thing again this season with them? We don't know yet. I don't think there's any firm commitment from the teams in Colorado yet to anything really. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think just for me in general, just any really project in soccer comes down to one thing: it's consistency. It's having patience and the vision, I think, to think long term. You might not get the results you want initially, but that doesn't mean that down the line, once you put in that work and have that consistency, those results aren't going to come. So then again, it's developing, and I think the team in there that's more consistent, I might say, is one that's going to come out on top at the end of the day.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I hope they figure it all out. That'd be great to have a conference there in the Mountain Premier League. That'd be pretty interesting to have right there.
That would be a separate thing from the UPSL. The Mountain Premier League would be a different entity than the UPSL, and wouldn't be. They would probably resist affiliation with the UPSL, and I think that is pretty safe to say. But if they can stabilize what they have going on there, then good for them. You know, whether or not the UPSL is there or not, really. So, you know, best of luck to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to make our way over to the Northwest. When will we see more Washington and Oregon teams up north?
That's a good question.
The rain is
right?
scaring them up.
Right. I think, you know, there needs to be some sort of greater force happening in Washington on behalf of the UPSL than what's happening currently. You know, to build, you know, a foundation there for teams to sort of grab onto and want to be a part of. There's a few teams there so far, but that's not nearly enough. And so, and Washington is a good state that has a great adult league going on in itself, and it's got a couple of different leagues that really thrive there. One's the EPLWA, and the other one's like the Western Washington League. And these are good teams with like storied clubs that have been playing there since the 60s and 70s. And soccer's been big there, of course, up in the Northwest for a long time. And so these clubs are sort of the backbone of that, you know, of that Sounders revolution, of the Timbers. These are the teams that sort of at the grassroots level have supported that all this time. And do they want, you know, to be part of a national league like the UPSL? You know, are they happy playing in their state association, in their state league? And that's a decision they'll have to make. But if there is a change, it probably won't be from expansion teams popping up in Washington. There's already a lot of clubs there that already fill a lot of communities there, big and small in Washington. So, you know, I think it would have to be from the existing group that's already there, which would have to be a change in mindset for those owners and those teams, you know, to want to change what they're doing now. And what they're doing now is relatively successful on their scale. You know, they could always, you know, demand more and ask for more and create more, but they don't seem to have asked for it yet.
Yeah, someone I think needs just in a nutshell, I think someone needs to just have the initiative to be like, we're going to take it to the next level. And with time, I think that'll happen.
And hopefully they catch some sun every once in a while, right? So they can play some soccer.
Yeah.
I know.
A lot of rain, but you can still play in the rain so long as there's no lightning.
Well, I do not like playing in the rain.
I like this one.
Oh, man.
Makes it a little more interesting with the rain. But now let's go to NorCal as we have one of the newcomers, Pájaro Valley United FC, off to a 3-0-0 start. Can you explain to me how they've been so successful being 3-0-0?
I can't. Can you explain to me how you pronounce that again? Pájaro?
I call it pájaro.
Pájaro, right?
Pájaro?
Bird in Spanish,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Portuguese saying pájaro, yeah. 10
Close,
goals
a
in
little
3
bit, yes.
games.
It's
It's crazy, though.
yes.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's exciting. They're an expansion team that's doing well straight off the bat. You know, I think that speaks well for expansion teams that come into the league to see other expansion teams doing well. Contra Costa FC, also an expansion team, also doing well right off the bat. So these two teams all of a sudden have jumped to the front in the Wild West Conference, and I think that's probably going to make some teams angry, you know, that are struggling to get a little bit going this season, to see expansion teams come in and do so well. So hopefully good rivalries develop out of this.
Yeah, and it says a lot about also their expansion teams, but it says a lot about the talent in the region. And more than that, it says a lot about these teams that are expansion teams or new teams being able to recruit them. You know, something's being done right off the field to get these players onto their roster. And, you know, the numbers show it. You know, you look at Contra Costa, you got 15 goals scored in 4 games. Like, you know, you don't do that if you're not planning things right off the field.
I would say that has to do something with the coaching as well, correct?
Exactly, yeah. Training.
Coaches bring in players, right? So players want to play for coaches. So it's a cyclical thing that works back and forth.
Interesting to see these new coming teams have such a great start here for the UPSL. And now our final stop over to SoCal. And we have our SoCal teams, the LA Wolves and LA 10 FC. They're gonna duke it out for that second place spot. What are you guys' expectations on this matchup?
Well, that's going to be a good one. It's at Harbor College, and so I think there's going to be some attention to it. LA 10 is really looking to make their mark in the Pro Premier, and I think they can do that if they earn a result in this game. And at Wolves, they got to watch their back. You know, this is a team that is really gunning for the upper echelon already in the Pro Premier, and they have the backing. They got you know, Alessandro Del Piero. You know, they got the marketing machine that is LA 10 now, and so I think they're going to strive for a playoff spot. And the next step in their path is LA Wolves. And so I think, you know, this is sort of like, you know, Jordan and the Bulls trying to get past the Pistons, you know, in like the early 90s. The sort of thing where they're trying to climb the mountain, and the next, you know, boulder in the way for LA 10 is LA Wolves. And so this is a matchup, I think a marquee matchup for the SoCal division this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about LA Wolves, you're always talking about the superpower in the UPSL. You know, always talking about a very consolidated team in Southern California. But this season, much like LA 10, we're talking about two teams that have really been kind of fluctuating. You know, they've been tying a game, been winning a game, they've been drawing a game. And when you get two teams with that record facing each other, really anything can happen, which is why that makes this clash just, you know, something you really want to look forward to, because it really could go both ways. So, and then again, Alessandro Del Piero, you know, the guy won a World Cup, so he knows exactly what needs to be done in important marquee matchups like this. So another UPSL game, you know, we get to look forward to.
And hopefully we get Duncan Bociccio back in studio next week. He's agreed to come on the show again, so hopefully he's got something good to tell us about the game.
We look forward to have Duncan back on the show. Along with that matchup, it looks like some big things are going to happen over here in SoCal for UPSL West Side. But that's going to be all the news we have on the UPSL West Side. But when we come back, we're going to have Anthony Wells talk a little bit about some San Diego news. You guys don't want to miss out on that. Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TV EMAX. And now it's time for the Anthony Wells segment, I like to call it. And he is the evening news anchor for the NBC affiliate in Yuma, Arizona. Anthony, thanks so much for being on the show tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I love that intro, by the way. That was really cool. Yeah, pleasure being here. Really, you know, love the beautiful game. Love what you guys are doing with the UPSL. It's expanding, bringing in good teams, good soccer. You know, UPSL teams now in the U.S. Open Cup, so it's certainly, you know, the sky's the limit. So, yeah, happy to be here.
And it's my understanding during the weekends you like to cover some UPSL, correct?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I originally, so here's a bit of background on me. So I basically used to intern I was intern, then I was hired as a production assistant here at Fox Sports Soccer in LA, and I studied journalism in college, and I used to be part of the campus newscast.
Okay.
So now I anchor the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock newscast for the NBC in Yuma, Arizona. It's the region's like desert Southwest, so it's kind of Imperial County, Yuma County, and then they also broadcast in Mexico, which is pretty cool. And then on the weekends, I do some work for the UPSL. I've written a few things for Dennis, and most recently I was working, taking care of communications for Gremio FCSD, which is a team in San Diego. They started last fall, and the owner of the club, the founder of the club, André, is from Brazil, and he obviously supports Gremio, which is where they got the inspiration from. But they've really come, a long way. Last year they were 1-1-6, right? And now they're 3-2. So they've come a long way. They've certainly changed a lot from last fall to the spring, and I think a lot of it has to do with the change of coaching. Beto was the coach last fall, he left, and now Duda, who was the assistant coach back then, is the head coach today. And I think that what was going on last year was, of course, a brand new club, but the coach and the founder of the club, both of them had different visions for the club, and it wasn't really working out. Not that one was wrong or one was bad. It was just kind of different, and now I think everything is kind of in place. Certainly the roster is a lot different. André brought a lot of, not a lot, but a few players from Temecula FC, which I believe is in the MPSL, right? And I don't believe those players are with the team anymore. But they've certainly changed a lot of things. They've been really kicking it up a notch in practice, getting a lot more creative. But I was really impressed. Just even last, fall, we would come off the field with like heartbreaking 2-1 losses, 3-2 losses. But the quality of the soccer that was played, very consistent, very organized, players, in shape and stuff like that. And I think that's something that is translated to this spring as well. So, I'm really excited to see where this team can go. I mean, they've got 9 goals scored, 9 goals conceded. They got 3 wins and 2 losses in 5 games. They're 4th now in the SoCal South Division. So the team is definitely making progress, and that is something that and I'm sure you guys will agree, we love to see, especially in the UPSL.
That's what this league is about, development, right? So
development, yeah.
I just want to ask, how do you improve from 1-1-6 from last year's record for Grêmio to 3-2 record? Correct? That's the record.
And that's correct. Yeah, and I think a lot of what the improvement has to do with that is just being a lot more aware of the team you have. I think that was a big issue last year. Is we had players that we didn't know exactly where to fit him on the team, and then if that player got injured or he was subbed out, we didn't have like a suitable replacement. So I think we have a lot more depth in our roster this year, and there's a lot more commitment, I feel, this year. Sometimes we'd show up to games and we wouldn't have those 7 substitutions that we're entitled to, but now we certainly do. And the players that we have, just really impressed with the talent in San Diego. I mean, straight off the bat, we had a lot of good quality players that were playing in college that had runs in the NPSL, and maybe even a few in the USL League 2, but just, it's coming together. It's working. It's going good.
A lot of talent in SoCal, but I also wanted to ask you, what's the market like in pro development soccer over there in San Diego?
So I think that it really hurts me, I like to say, because I think it's the talent is there, but I think the management and the planning and the coaching that is so necessary off the pitch, it is a step below LA. That's at least my opinion. And I think the main thing that's lacking, I believe, in San Diego is kind of consistency and initiative. It's that person that, look, we're going to start this project. It might not be what I want it to be straight off the bat, but if you give it time, give it consistency, and that's one of the reasons why I joined Grêmio is André. He came up to me and was like, listen, man, we might not have the most brilliant, first season, but I'm going to keep working on this and bringing in players, and I'm going to keep working hard and devote my time, devote energy and hard work into this to see it kind of progress. And that's something I think that certainly the market in San Diego needs. It's and I don't know why they don't have it, but in LA you've got plenty of it, and in San Diego I think you need a little bit more of that. Landon Donovan's now playing, I believe, is it
in the soccer?
Yeah, that's right.
In the arena soccer?
Yeah, Major Arena Soccer League. I actually talked to him last Thursday.
Okay.
He came up to Ontario to play the Fury, so I got a chance to speak to him for a few minutes. He's excited about what he's doing. Yeah, I think it's a good fit for him.
Yeah. And then we had Warren Barton. He was spearheading a club back there a few years back. Don't know if he's still doing it though. But then again, we got some big names that are, kind of bringing attention, because you got Tijuana right there, and they have plenty of talent. So,
So, I want to ask you, how have you seen this team develop within the last 12 years? Any major changes at all from the team?
In the last 12 years, you mean?
12 years, 12 months.
I was like, we've been around. No, I'm really pleased. Training sessions wise, practicing more times a week. Training is getting more consistent, and they're training more facets of the game. It's a lot more than just passing and shooting. It's agility. Sometimes it's training that at a kid's park that doesn't even involve a ball. It's getting to know the players and buying into the coach's philosophy. So I think it's the team now a lot more well-rounded, and that's what I'm beginning to see. It's a team that's more complete. It's more meetings, for example, off the pitch on weekends when they're not training, like team barbecues, getting to know your guys. All get together at Andre's garage. Lay out tactics. Watch Mike Kuju streams of their opponent this weekend. So it's a lot of work being done, on and off the pitch that's making this team better.
So it's a huge chemistry thing. They're very big on building a chemistry with the team, correct?
Yeah, they are. I think every team, wants that, and every team, I think in the UPSL, is doing a good job, as we've been talking about. The league's going in the right place. Teams are improving. Teams are going in the right place. More teams are coming on. So, and that says a lot about the competitiveness of the league. Once you have a team that just started and you wrap up your fall season 1-1-6, you're like, hey man, it's a brand new league. These teams are really good. We got to step it up. So once the league gets more competitive, the team itself gets more competitive, and I think it's just traction. Keep the ball rolling and move forward.
So we know you're the anchor over there in the NBC affiliate in Yuma, Arizona. How did you get connected with the UPSL?
How did I get connected with you? That's a good question. So when I was working at Fox Sports Soccer, my thing was, I'm a personality guy, so I like being on air, reporting, anchoring shows and stuff like that. But my real passion is soccer, and I think the broadcast side of soccer in this country is still, developing. So my boss at the time, he was like, hey man, if you have a few offers on the table for news, for television news, but you can still do soccer on the side. So I was like, all right, what are the the lower divisions of U.S. soccer? And there's UPSL. So I just searched, UPSL soccer, director of communications, followed this guy on Twitter, and I was like, hey man, like, what do you need? I got you. I'm right here. So over the course of time, Dennis was, hey, can you write this article? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was always, made myself available for whatever he needed, which led me here. So it's kind of just, it's a little bit of everything.
What a small world. I bet you Dennis knows everybody in the sporting world.
He
Right,
knows
Dennis?
everybody.
Not everybody.
He's an encyclopedia of soccer.
So you were a part of the broadcast team with the fall UPSL final. Tell us, what did you think of the game overall and all of the events going forward in that game?
Very impressed. Very, very impressed with the game. I love the event, too. I love especially the energy of the Inocentes fans that were there. They came all the way from Texas, right? And they brought it. They brought the banners and everything. It was really, really exciting to just see them there. You could really see they were supporting the team, and that's what it's about. But I was really impressed above all with the quality of the game, especially, Cal United FC2, just really well-worked football, very organized, passing, finding the spaces, triangulations, quick 1-2s. And I interviewed one of the players after the game, and he said, that's why we practice 4 times a week, because you had a team that was playing a man down, right? So Cal United FC had a guy sent off in the first half. In the second half, they were still able to attack, counterattack, get shots on target, and just play, I want to say just play the same quality football that Inocentes was playing with a man down. So I was really impressed with them, and I thought it was really, really, really great event. I liked it. Yeah, it was a pleasure covering it for sure.
And definitely worth the money as far as it going down to PKs and how intense it was and how it's just an overall game, right?
Yeah, when you have, a title game, there's that part of you that really wants to see it go down to PKs, especially when you're watching that live stream. So I'm glad it came down to that. Cal United FC took it in PKs, in my opinion. They deserved it. Heartbreak for Inocentes, all the way from Texas. Did such a good job reaching it this far. They're doing such a good job right now in their division. So it was, it's 10 out of 10 for sure.
January already. It seems like when was
February?
that? February. It seems like
right.
so long ago already. Yeah. Cal United FC, they went down a man in like the 30th minute. Kyle O'Brien getting sent off for a rash tackle. And then they managed to score a goal.
Beautiful one, too.
Man down, and then Inocentes scored a goal to equalize. and forced the game into penalties.
And then there was an offside goal in like the
That's
last
right.
minute.
That Cal United got called for, and that would have won the game for them. And then they had to go to kicks. And then their keeper came up big. Keefe Kalani came up with a couple of saves in the shootout to sort of preserve the victory for them. Yeah, a fantastic game. I think it was one of the highest, most watched games in the history of Mike Cujo for the UPSL. So it was definitely a game to be a part of for the first broadcast for you, Anthony. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one. And then the star man for Cal United FC got the Cardona, right? Cardozo?
Yeah, Paulo Cardozo.
Paulo Cardozo, yeah, he got the winning penalty kick. So it's just cherry on
He's
top.
MVP, yeah.
Nice. I remember that Wednesday when we came back to work with inside the UPSL. Dennis came without nails. He was trying to bite his nails throughout the whole entire
It was
game.
cold.
So,
oh
yeah,
man, it was. I was wearing 2 pants for that broadcast, but it was worth it.
So my final question is, where do you want to see the UPSL move on next? What's the next level for them?
I think when you talk about soccer in America in general, I want to see the UPSL move in the same direction that soccer in America should be moving, and that is, again, it comes back to what I said: watch globally but support locally. It's about making it more than just a sport, but part of the culture here. Once it's ingrained into your everyday lifestyle. Hey, you and me, let's go grab a ball, grab a few friends, and go play. I think the UPSL is moving in the right direction, and we're talking about UPSL games that had the possibility of at least being streamed. Didn't ESPN Plus stream one?
That's right.
There we go. Would this have been a reality 2 years ago? No. If they're already streaming one game now. In 5 years from now, it's going to be
Big league.
a big league, a lot more games. So I just want to. It's moving in the right direction. I want to continue to see it moving in this direction, bringing in players with big names. A lot more revenue, and then as a broadcaster myself, a lot more coverage of it. So I think it's going in the right direction. They just gotta. This guy's doing a great job. So
Thanks.
just keep it going. Yeah.
I don't know I can't ask Dennis a question. Him be like, oh, I don't know. And this
Right.
guy's on top of everything. But you're talking about big time names as far as we
Right.
talk about Chad Ochocinco joining the league a lot, and even Jermaine Jones also
Right.
joining. So these are some big time players joining the league. So big things coming up for the UPSL. But that's all the time we have left here. We'd like to thank all of our guests joining tonight, starting with Josh Hackler for joining onto the show, along with Anthony Wells, and as always, Dennis Pope being with us. And of course, we'd like to say thank you to you guys for tuning in with us on Thursday nights. I am your host, Alex Naveja. Have a good night, everybody.